Welcome to our noon edition of Arirang News. Let's start with the stories making the headlines at this hour. More than 100 people were killed in intense Israeli airstrikes that pounded Rafah on Monday. More than half of Gaza's population is currently seeking refuge here. The Israeli military says it conducted a series of strikes and rescued 2 hostages as part of a special operation. Donald Trump has made what the EU and other Western leaders call a dangerous remark. Bidding to serve another term in office, Trump said the U.S. would walk out of its mutual defense commitment with NATO members. He said Moscow should do whatever it wants if NATO members continue to fail meeting their military alliance's defense spending target. A round of policy discussions with citizens have been taking place here in South Korea. Soon, they will be expanded, with President Yoon even traveling outside the capital to hear what citizens need to better their livelihoods. Israeli airstrikes on Gaza's southern city of Rafah and surrounding areas killed more than 100 people, including children, overnight Monday. The Israel Defense Forces are proceeding with their aim to win the war, despite the international community criticizing them for costing too many lives in the process. Yoon starts us off.
The Israel Defense Forces attacked Gaza's southern city of Rafah and surrounding areas overnight Monday, with jets targeting different areas of the city and helicopters firing machine guns along border areas. More than 100 people, including children, were killed in what CNN called extremely intense Israeli airstrikes. According to a Palestinian media source, Israel conducted about 40 airstrikes on the Rafah region in the early hours of the morning in an area where 1.4 million Gazans have taken refuge since the conflict began. The White House reported that in a call with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday, President Joe Biden pushed back on the planned military operation in Rafah, telling the Israeli leader that Israel should not proceed without a credible and executive plan to protect the Palestinian civilians sheltering there. However, Netanyahu brushed off international warnings and criticism, saying that telling Israel not to enter Rafah was like telling the country to lose the war. The Israel Defense Force proceeded with the airstrikes despite a firestorm of criticism, with Human Rights Watch saying the forced displacement of Palestinians in Rafah would have catastrophic consequences, while the United Nations said it was extremely worried about the fate of civilians in Rafah who need to be protected. Following his meeting in Washington with Jordan's King Abdullah on Monday, the U.S. president said the United States is pushing for a 6-week pause in the fighting between Israel and Hamas in Gaza as a stepping stone towards a longer ceasefire.
As the King and I discussed today, the United States is working on a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, which would bring an immediate and sustained period of calm to Gaza for at least 6 weeks, which we could then take the time to build something more enduring.
Meanwhile, Hamas said Monday that 3 Israeli hostages died from wounds sustained during the intense Israeli attacks over the weekend. According to the Israel Defense Forces, 2 Israeli hostages were rescued Monday, having both spent 128 days in captivity. They are said to be in relatively good condition and have been reunited with their families. Israel says there are still over 130 Israelis being held hostage. Yoon, Arirang News.
Former U.S. President and current Republican frontrunner Donald Trump has raised concerns from Washington's Western allies on whether NATO would be sustainable if he were granted another term in office. On his campaign trail, Trump suggested that he would allow Russia to attack any NATO member that failed to match the military alliance's defense spending requirements. Lee Seung-jae with more.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump on Saturday told NATO members that they would need to pay their dues if they want military assistance from the United States. His comments drew immense criticism, as he said he would encourage Russia to do whatever they want to any NATO member country that doesn't meet defense spending guidelines.
And one of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Responding to Trump's remarks, U.S. President Joe Biden slammed his likely presidential opponent, saying that the former president is making it clear that he is willing to abandon its allies. Biden added that Trump's message gives Putin a green light for more war and violence, calling his remarks appalling and dangerous. In a statement Monday, NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg said any suggestions that NATO allies will not defend each other undermines their security and puts American and European soldiers at increased risk. He added that there are still expectations that regardless of who wins the presidential election, the U.S. will remain a strong and committed NATO ally. Trump's remarks come on the back of a NATO report released last year, which showed that only 11 of the then 30-member alliance were spending 2% of GDP or more on defense. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Monumental milestones were reached during Monday's markets. Bitcoin broke past the $50,000 mark, and Nvidia's market value briefly surpassed that of Amazon for the first time in 22 years. Lee Soo-jin reports.
Bitcoin has surpassed the $50,000 level for the first time in more than 2 years. According to U.S. cryptocurrency platform Coinbase, at 12:26 p.m. on Monday U.S. Eastern Time, Bitcoin surged 3.65% from the previous day. This marks the first time since December 2021 that the cryptocurrency has been valued at more than $50,000 per coin. The world's largest cryptocurrency was boosted by last month's regulatory approval by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to allow the creation of Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, as well as a growing interest from Wall Street in the tech industry. The massive outflows from Grayscale Investments' Grayscale Bitcoin Trust after it received approval from the SEC to convert its existing $28 billion in assets under management into an ETF have also begun to subside. Following the approval of the long-awaited ETFs on January 10th, the cryptocurrency briefly tumbled below the $40,000 level, but has since been on an upward trend. Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency, was also up nearly 2% to pass the $2,000 mark on the same day. And the renewed interest from investors in the tech industry was also evident when U.S. AI chipmaker NVIDIA briefly overtook Amazon in terms of market capitalization for the first time since 2002, when they were both valued at under $6 billion. On Monday local time, NVIDIA's market cap passed that of Amazon's to briefly become the fourth most valuable U.S.-listed company before closing with a valuation behind the e-commerce giant. The primary driver behind NVIDIA temporarily surpassing Amazon is the global frenzy surrounding artificial intelligence, further raising expectations that the chipmaker may become a $2 trillion company this year. NVIDIA currently holds around 80% of the high-end AI chip market, leading its shares to surge a whopping 223% over the past 12 months. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Despite Apple gaining traction with younger buyers, Samsung Electronics has kept its place as South Korea's most popular smartphone brand in 2023. According to data released by tech market research firm Counterpoint Research on Tuesday, Samsung Electronics held a market share of 73%, while Apple only just surpassed the 25% mark for the first time ever. Samsung displayed its dominance in the local market despite global smartphone sales falling by 8% compared to the year before. The release of the Galaxy S23 last year meant that the domestic tech giant sold over 1.09 million phones during the pre-order period. Staying on tech, a world where robots and humans walk side by side no longer sounds like science fiction. Instead, robots have become an integral part of our daily lives. An Sung-jin shows us how.
A robot strolls down the street, on its way to deliver a freshly packed meal without any human assistance. The company behind it, Robotis, has created indoor and outdoor autonomous delivery robots to further cement its position in the market. Based on a deep learning algorithm, the robot can detect obstacles, wait for the traffic lights, and reach its destination. It's called Kemi, which means ant in Korean. These robotic worker ants focus on short-distance delivery from restaurants and cafes to nearby offices and residential areas, while indoor robots work in hotels and offices.
What would have taken me 20 minutes on a delivery app only took this robot less than 10 minutes. Pick up my meal from a restaurant and have it perfectly delivered it to me. Robots like this are becoming more and more integrated into our daily lives for added convenience.
The company says it aims to fill jobs that humans don't want to do.
Many people are concerned that robots will take jobs from humans, but the 3D, dirty, dangerous and demeaning jobs are already in need of workers. If robots can provide not only delivery services, but also fill labour shortages in these areas, that's the ultimate goal that would fill us with a great deal of pride.
This company that develops serving robots for the restaurant industry is also looking to help with labor shortages and has more than 2,000 robots located in restaurants all over the country.
Despite having a long history, the restaurant industry lacks digitalization, but that means it has a lot of potential. These types of robots have so much space for growth since demand at other indoor environments is increasing as well.
The South Korean government announced plans to provide 1 million robots in the industrial sector by investing more than 3 trillion won, or $2.27 billion by the year 2030. The Trade Ministry also aims to loosen 51 robot-related regulations that have hampered further use, especially for autonomous robots.
It's great that the government amended its policies. However, the key task we have left is enhancing national competitiveness to compete with Chinese companies that receive sufficient subsidies from their government to manufacture at low prices. If the same were to be implemented in Korea, it would help small and medium-sized companies to conduct pilot services.
Although there's a lot still to be done to boost the country's robotics industry, the needs of the companies that make them need to be addressed. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Following the Lunar New Year holiday, President Yoon will hold an 11th round of policy talks with members of the public, expanding his series of discussions on people's livelihoods to major cities and provinces outside Seoul. His office on Sunday announced Yoon will travel around the country, including to the southern and central regions, such as the cities of Busan, Daegu, and the Chungcheongdo provinces. This comes after the leader held 10 government policy discussions in Seoul and its surrounding Gyeonggi-do province, inviting members of the public and experts relevant to each topic. The 11th session will focus on balanced regional development under the theme of an era where people can live comfortably anywhere. South Korea's online food delivery service industry, which had seen a boost during COVID-19, shrank for the first time last year. According to Statistics Korea on Tuesday, the size of the market last year was just under $19.9 billion, down 0.6% on year. This was the first time the market saw a downsize since related data began being compiled in 2017. The online food delivery service market grew considerably from around $2 billion in 2017 to around $20 billion in 2022. But the agency believes higher delivery fees and the easing of social distancing measures urged more people to eat out rather than order in. It's been 20 years since the Sejong Cultural Society kicked off in the U.S., promoting Korean culture to the American public through music and literature. To commemorate, a special concert was held. Yoon walks us through.
The Sejong Cultural Society in Illinois has been working to raise awareness and understanding of Korea's cultural heritage among people in the United States. This year, the Society is celebrating its 20th anniversary with a special Korean-themed concert. At the Galvin Recital Hall in Evanston, Illinois, performers included past winners of the Sejong Cultural Society's annual music competition for pre-college students. The competition itself was aimed at raising awareness of traditional Korean music. Participants performed one required piece and one of their own choosing.
They are so busy studying their own standard repertoire, so we wanted our required piece not too long, so usually 3 minutes or less, and must contain some Korean musical theme. So 20 years ago, we couldn't find any piece like that.
The Sejong Cultural Society has collected over 150 music pieces from talented composers who understand the goal of composing short yet creative instrumental solos for the piano and violin using Korean traditional melodies. It's these contemporary songs that were performed at the concert, with the composer's commentary explaining how they have implemented the traditional elements from the original song. Carissa, who won the senior division in 2015, played Joy of Onghea, a violin solo piece based on a Korean folk song.
We realized that competitions like Sejong really make a difference in young musicians' lives and help them become better artists. So I'm really honored and happy to have been able to help celebrate Sejong's 20th anniversary.
One of the cultural events that are organized annually is a Shijo competition, which introduces a traditional Korean poetic form of writing. Workshops for middle and high school teachers mean that more students can learn about Korean poetry. And by fostering cross-cultural understanding, the Sejong Cultural Society says it hopes to contribute to the harmonious existence of various ethnic backgrounds.
I think it's not only Korean descendants, but non-Koreans also appreciate this kind of music. And this is the time that we need more cross-cultural training, education. Multicultural competency is what they need to develop. So this is just one small thing that we can add.
Yoon, Arirang News.
More on culture. The National Museum of Korea has used digital technology to recreate a symbolic relic of Goguryeo, an ancient Korean kingdom. It's the King Gwanggaeto stele, currently located in China. Choi Soo-young went to see the recreation for herself.
The National Museum of Korea is currently exhibiting the stele of King Gwanggaeto the Great, which has been recreated digitally. LEDs adorn the four sides of the reconstruction, reproducing the script on the original stele that is actually situated in the city of Jian in Jilin Province, northeast China. The stele, erected in the year 414 by his son King Changsu to commemorate King Gwanggaeto's achievements, stands almost 6.39 meters with 1,775 characters carved into its four sides. It is one of the most significant research resources about the history of the Goguryeo kingdom. The museum said it took over a year to create, using meticulous 3D photos and videos to reproduce its appearance faithfully.
Gwanggaeto's stele is an important artifact in Goguryeo's history, and it is impossible to explain this history without it. Due to its distant location, we've meticulously restored it with advanced digital video technology, capturing texture, size, and inscriptions in detail to make it accessible.
Other noteworthy items are rubbing copies. The raw stone rubbings displayed here are used as a crucial reference to decipher what's inscribed on the Gwanggaeto stele. There are two types of rubbings, raw stone and lime, with the former being closer to the actual inscribed characters on the stele. Moreover, as the Gwanggaeto stele was created by the people of Goguryeo in 414, it contains vivid content not found in history books.
I'm really impressed with this majestic monument because it contains of the rules of the society, the ancient society, and also it contains of some history, so it's really interesting.
King Gwanggaeto became king when he was 18 and passed away early. Fortunately, rubbings of the Gwanggaeto stele have been discovered. I want to learn more about King Gwanggaeto's life.
The museum plans to strengthen its content on the history and culture of Goguryeo following this reconstruction. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
If waste products generated by brain activity accumulate, they can damage nerve cells, resulting in brain disorders such as dementia. South Korean researchers have, for the first time globally, identified the central pathway through which waste products exit the brain, proposing a new method for treating dementia. Chung Eun-ju has the details.
When we use our brains, a kind of waste product is generated. If this waste is not expelled from the brain and accumulates, can damage nerve cells, leading to brain disorders including dementia. The problem has been that the major pathways for waste, including cerebrospinal fluid, to exit the brain were a mystery. South Korean researchers, however, have found the central pathway through which cerebrospinal fluid exits the brain. Cerebrospinal fluid collects in the lymphatic network behind the nose, or the nasopharyngeal lymphatic plexus. It then connects to the neck lymphatic vessels and lymph nodes, playing a role in removing cerebrospinal fluid from the brain.
Our research team precisely visualized the cerebrospinal fluid drainage pathways at the base of the brain and in the neck, using specially engineered mice that express fluorescent proteins in lymphatic vessels.
The key finding is that the lymphatic network behind the nose serves as a hub for the cerebrospinal fluid drainage pathway. The research team confirmed that aging causes deformation of the lymphatic network behind the nose, leading to a reduction in cerebrospinal fluid drainage. Interestingly, there was no deformation observed in the neck lymphatic vessels due to aging. Utilizing this, the team induced the contraction and relaxation of muscle cells in the neck lymphatic vessels through drug control, resulting in those vessels functioning like a pump, making it easier to extract cerebrospinal fluid.
We aim to develop a method to efficiently stimulate the lymphatic vessels in the neck to facilitate the drainage of the cerebrospinal fluid, essentially cleaning the brain. This could become a new foundation for the prevention and treatment of neurodegenerative brain diseases, including dementia.
The research team emphasized the significance of this study in that they confirmed the regulation of cerebrospinal fluid drainage, including waste, can be easily controlled not from the head but from the neck. The research team is currently researching the pathway for cerebrospinal fluid drainage in primate animal models, obtaining results similar to those in mice. The results of this study were published in the international academic journal Nature. 정은주, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In the United States, the country's Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, was put under general anesthesia on Monday to treat an emergent bladder issue. Austin has transferred his duties to his deputy following his hospitalization on Sunday. According to the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Austin had non-surgical procedures under general anesthesia. Although doctors said in a statement on Monday that Austin will be able to resume his duties by Tuesday and that a prolonged hospital stay is not anticipated, the U.S. Defense Secretary was forced to cancel a planned trip to Brussels for the meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group due at the end of the week. This is Austin's third hospitalization since his prostate cancer diagnosis at the end of December. In Finland, Conservative former Prime Minister Alexander Stubb has claimed victory in the Finnish presidential election. According to the Finnish Justice Ministry on Sunday, the National Coalition Party candidate won 51.6% of the votes, narrowly beating independent Green Party candidate Pekka Haavisto. Having been Finland's first election since it joined the NATO last year, 55-year-old Stubb is expected to take a hardline approach towards Russia's war on Ukraine, saying that he doesn't see any kind of communication with Putin or with the Russian political leadership in the near future. In sports news, Côte d'Ivoire have won the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. The Ivorians secured the trophy with a 2-1 victory in Sunday's AFCON final against Nigeria at their home ground, the Alassane Ouattara Stadium in the Côte d'Ivoire city of Abidjan. Ivorians Franck Kessie and Sébastien Haller each scored in the second half of the final after Nigerian defender William Troost Ekong scored in the first half. 2023 AFCON host nation Côte d'Ivoire are the first host country to win the Cup of Nations since Egypt in 2006. Pop star Taylor Swift was at the Super Bowl on Sunday to celebrate her boyfriend Travis Kelce's triumph with the Kansas City Chiefs. Kelce, who plays tight end for the Chiefs, saw his team beat the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday and was seen celebrating afterward with Swift at their Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Taylor Swift is currently on a world tour and performed in Tokyo just the day before the Super Bowl. Many speculated she wouldn't be able to make it to the game, but flying in a private jet straight after the show, she landed with around 2 hours to spare before kickoff. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The weather shifted toward the spring side after the long holiday weekend. Temperatures will soar to the mid to upper teens by the afternoon, going up nearly 10 degrees Celsius from the seasonal norms. Especially those in Daegu could notice temperature gaps of nearly 20 degrees today. If it weren't for the fine dust, it would be a perfect day to spend time outdoors. Central regions in Jeollabuk-do province and Gwangju will have bad air quality all day again, with Incheon under an ultra-fine dust advisory. But the rest of the country should have decent air to breathe in, so enjoy the weather if you can. Early March warms for most regions this afternoon at 14 degrees here in the capital. Busan topping out at 17 degrees. But coastal regions will be quite windy all day, while dust-affected areas are having sunny skies blurred by that dust. Tomorrow will be even warmer than today before a wintry mix on Thursday brings down the temperatures to near seasonal averages. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have for you at this hour. We'll bring you more stories from Korea and around the world at the same time tomorrow.